Good evening. And Fran, thank you for that great introduction. I appreciate it. First I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee for choosing me. This recognition is certainly the highlight of a very blessed life. I'd also like to congratulate the other 2015 inductees with me here tonight, as well as all the past inductees, and I'm going to put this out. It's great to see so many student athletes out there. Many of you will probably be up here, say in 20 years. Don't let it go too fast though. It's so humbling and overwhelming to be recognized for your college and your life achievements. Cortland was the only application I filled out as a senior at Arcade Central. I came here and took my, at that time, skills test. I loved it. I didn't know much about it, but a friend of my brother's had come here and was just finishing his sophomore year, and I asked him about it. He says the best place he'd ever been. And it was. Other than marrying Kathy, my wife of 46 years, and Kathy, would you please stand up? Coming to Cortland is probably the best decision of my life. Having been a three-sport athlete in high school, I couldn't wait to get here to test my skills at the college level. I was ready. Worked out all summer long. But what I found was that a somewhat successful athlete from a small Western New York high school in 1963, working as hard as he could, didn't guarantee success at this level. No matter how hard you worked, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. After a week of getting run over at football practice, Coach Miller and I had a little heart-to-heart, and we decided that my being on the football team may not be the best idea. He was a great coach. He saw in me something, well, let's put it this way, he didn't see football in me. I'd always played sport for all year long, whether it was summer, spring, fall, winter, didn't matter. I had to do something. And my next door neighbor, Larry DeBell, was the scrub, well, they call him these days the manager, of the cross-country team. And he said, hey, Denny, why don't you come down and run? Another great decision. I found out as a long-distance runner, I was a heck of a lot better than I was as a football player. And with me tonight are two of those great runners who've been mentioned before, and one of the most influential coaches in my life. I'd like to recognize C Club Hall of Famers that are here tonight. Bob Lally, who yesterday flew in from Africa. Dr. Bob Fitz, who yesterday flew in from Wisconsin. And one of the best coaches I ever had, and someone who inspired me without even knowing it. Dr. David Costo. Please stand up, fellas. You know, a quick story. Dr. Costo came here. He was about 27, 28 years old. He was our physiology of exercise professor and our cross-country coach. He came here as a swimming coach. And they said, oh yeah, you can coach the cross-country team too. Well, he gave us some outstanding workouts, but one of the things that we really liked about him was he had a Corvette. And we would run behind that Corvette for practices. And honestly, I could envision myself in that Corvette. So after graduating, guess what I bought? A Corvette. Guess what I sold just before I got married? That Corvette. But after I retired, after 39 years at West Irondequoit, I tell people I scratched my 40-year itch, and I bought a Corvette. You know, other notable friends and Cortland graduates who have been part of my life, Al Milanda, who is the executive director of the New York State Athletic Administrators Association, and Lloyd Mott, who was mentioned by Art Jessup. Lloyd is a C Club Hall of Famer. Lloyd and I met in 2000. We knew each other for a long time, but we had a dinner one night in 2006. I was telling him how I just got back from a far western athletic administrators meeting where I met a fella who was touting this new pre-concussion management program. And he was telling me he just came back from a concussion management program on the East Coast. And we thought New York State needed something like that. The two of us teamed up and we initiated the first in New York State and one of the first in the entire nation education and management protocols for concussion management in high school athletics. Within 1 year, we had cards in every first aid kit, in every high school, in every coach in high school in New York State. And what was started back in 2006 has become by law concussion management protocol in all of our schools. Lloyd, I thank him for that. Thank you. You know, when I think of my 4 years here at Cortland, I remember many things, some of which I'll mention here, and maybe you can relate to them too. Freshman orientation. I remember lining up and them saying, look to your left and look to your right. One of the three of you won't be here next year. Whoa. I remember 8 to 10. See, back in the day, when you had physical education major, 8 to 10, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you had swimming. And I had Dr. Fran Woods, who found great pleasure at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Now, freshmen were freshmen back then. 8 o'clock Saturday morning, say, okay, boys, let's warm up with 10 laps. Sometimes that water looked a little choppy. I also remember classes with Chugger Davis, Prof. Holloway, dancing with Bess Cavell, and natting with Dr. Horick, taking my lifeguarding and swim instruction classes in what we call Old Main, the Old Main pool. I'm not sure if it was a small pool or just a large bathtub, but you couldn't dive, and it was only about 15 yards long. But if you were taking instructors or lifeguarding, it was a great pool to take it in. The laps were very short. I also remember running across country again with taking physiology with Dr. Costa, where every day we had a mask on us, taking oxygen uptake, taking blood samples, running us everywhere, working on the treadmill. I thought we had class today. And then I think he wrote one of his dissertations on us, but that's okay. It was great. My time at Gamma Tau Sigma, running in the Pines with my teammates, not only the two here, but also Hall of Famers Tom Rogan and Gary Wilson, Gordy Valentine, one of our teammates, Murray Banks, and going to the Nationals in Wheaton, Illinois, spending too much time at the tavern. In my 2 summers of working at Racket Lake, the Cortland camp with and for George Fuge. I will tell you, for those people that are still going to camp there, it was a work-study group which back in 1965 and 66 built the docks, both on the Racket Lake side as well on the Camp Huntington side. We spent a lot of time in very cold water. Also, I went out student teaching, who was my master teacher, but Otis Sennett, another C Club, national, state, and local Hall of Famer. And of course, meeting and starting to date my then girlfriend, Kathy Pito, who is now my wife, Kathy Fries. After graduating from Cortland, I was hired to teach, as you heard, and coach at West Irondequoit. 39 years later, I retired from this starter job. In 1984, I became the Director of Athletics and Physical Education at West Irondequoit and made a few more good decisions. It just happened that in the next 5 or 6 years, I hired 6 or 7 Cortland grads. And again, great decisions. And one of those great decisions is here with us today. Chris Carden, who we hired in physical education and basketball, great friend, and his wife, also a Cortland alumnus, Roxanne Carden, and thank you for being here today with me. Most importantly here tonight are the members of my family. First and foremost, Kathy, as indicated, a Cortland alumnus herself, my wife for 46 years. I think that deserves a medal in and of itself. I tell her that every day. I can tell you that any success I've had in life is certainly attributable to her support and love. Also here tonight is one of our 3 sons, Dr. David Fries, and one of my biggest supporters, his daughter, one of our 11 grandchildren, the very cute, very smart, and very talented Olivia Fries. Olivia, stand up. And last but not certainly least, our youngest child and only daughter, Julie Lynn Jones. Julie has 4 children herself, and before driving up here yesterday, ran 20 miles getting ready for her next marathon. Amazing. I can't believe it. She and her brothers have always brought Kathy and I great joy, and we're so proud of them. In closing, I could not have asked for a better undergraduate education than the one I received here at Cortland. Being inducted tonight into the C Club Hall of Fame is a memory I'll never forget. Thank you and good evening.